Hi, I'm Ashley Atwood with Sunshine Hill Properties, and I've helped over 70 hopeful homeowners build their bridge from renting to home ownership. Now I'm here to give you the tools you need to achieve your dream of becoming a homeowner. This is the How to Be a Homeowner podcast. All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to How to Be a Homeowner. I am your host, Ashley Atwood, and we are sponsored by Sunshine Hill Properties. And we have an exciting guest today to talk all things credit. Gina Paulson, who is a board certified credit consultant with New Credit Solutions, is here to help us all talk about how to build credit, how to fix your credit, and even how to read a credit report. So when you do have it pulled, you know exactly what's going on in your credit, because we all know that we can't buy a house without knowing what's going on in that regard. So welcome to the show, Gina.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. I know it's a drive. You guys don't know yet, but I live way out in the middle of nowhere, and we built a little studio out here, and everybody has been making the trek.
It's beautiful.
It is a lovely area. We love it a lot.
Home is beautiful.
Thank you very much. Okay, so let me actually get you a bio read. That would be the first thing we need to do. Gina is with New Credit Solutions. It's a family-owned company since February 2016. She was actually a special education coordinator for 11 and a half years, and she's a proud mom of 3 and decided that she wanted to help educate families. She had the opportunity to go into the public schools, and she provides teachers with these kinds of education, teaches them about community with credit and money saving tips. She gets to meet new people and relieve people's stress from their lives by teaching several things. We've got 3 things: how to read your credit report, which we are going to do.
Yes.
How to settle charge-offs on your credit report through dispute letter, which we'll talk about what that is, but that's something that Gina does. And then how to create credit from zero.
Nothing.
Yeah, which most of us start with nothing and have to go somewhere. So all 3 of the things that she likes to teach her teachers, she's going to teach you as homeowners, and we're very excited to have her. So thank you, Gina. So you were a special education teacher.
I was a special education teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I was lucky enough to work one-on-one with students, and it was talking to the students and them relaying things because they needed somebody to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
And so when my daughter graduated high school, I was like, well, what do I want to do? And it was to continue to educate and help people, families, people, anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And we opened up this little company.
Okay.
And
so what made you choose teaching about credit?
Well, I was in the collection agency before I had my children, and I worked with collections. And so I decided there's no better way than to remove items from your credit report or clean your negative items by settling them.
Okay.
Because even though something says charged off, that doesn't mean that it's gone. If it's money you still owe to a bank, you still have to pay it. Could be to the actual credit card, or it could be to multiple different
so you're seeing people mismanage their credit by thinking that they were doing one thing when it really was doing something else.
Well, nobody is credit is so unique and so detailed, and it's like a roadmap of who we are. So with that said, nobody teaches that. They teach you bookkeeping, they teach you accounting, but they don't teach you any information on credit.
Right.
And so that's why I decided
to go with that.
Yes.
And so I like to ask what your favorite part is. Most people say the people, like meeting the people and teaching and helping the people. Is there a technical aspect that you enjoy the most?
Yes. This is going to sound weird to people, but
go ahead.
I like to, before I do anything, I investigate the company so that I know what I'm dealing with. And then depending on the anybody's situation, I like to investigate. I need every documentation you can possibly have to help me draw up a timeline. Then depending on the dispute, then I need to go through a contract and find out.
Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah.
So you're like the Sherlock Holmes of credit.
Yes, and I love it. I can lock myself up for hours in my office and just read through documents.
Yeah.
And once I'm fully educated myself, then I will start a dispute letter.
Okay. So now we have Sherlock Holmes on our side, guys.
And, what's her name? Nancy Drew?
Yes. Awesome. Well, we're going to take a really quick break after that intro, and then we're going to dive right into so many credit things that I want you to stay tuned to hear. So we will be right back. For this break, I'm going to mention one of our incredible sponsors, HOA.com. Did y'all know that HOA actually stands for Homeowner Alliance? They are America's #1 referral network for professionals that service homeowners. That means their entire existence is to pair quality service professionals that service your house with you as the homeowner. Go to HOA.com/Ashley to find a service professional in your area. They serve the entire country from Austin to Denver to Phoenix to Tampa. You'll be able to find somebody in your area. Also, if you are a service professional and you want to partner with HOA.com, go to the same link, HOA.com/Ashley, and sign up today. So Gina's got all the paperwork here. We are ready to dive in and talk credit. So we'll take it kind of in like a chronological order. So we'll start with those of you that have zero credit. You've never had a credit card, right? That's usually what that means. You don't have any kind of history with a company of borrowing and paying back money. Is that what that means when you have like no credit?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, there's two different ways.
Okay.
You can go to a furniture store
Okay.
and either purchase something on layaway or, do zero down for a year. Then you start making payments, and that's how you start developing something on some form of history.
Okay.
The other way is to start a secured credit card.
Okay. And tell them the difference between a secured credit card and an unsecured credit card.
Okay. So a secured credit card is your money going into a credit card that you're using, replenishing by making your payments, using and replenishing. The best and fastest way is to use it, pay the full amount because you don't want to pay any tax on your money or interest on your money. So you will get charged interest depending on the amount that is on the credit card. Okay, so those are the two best ways. Now, another way, real quick,
go ahead.
is you can also become an authorized user on somebody else's credit card.
Okay, but you better know that person's going to be responsible with their payments and stuff if you're going to do that.
Correct.
So to me, out of those things, that the secured credit card is the safest way to be able to build credit without going into crazy amounts of debt.
And you want to be independent. You want to be able to walk into a bank and fill out the application and get the loan for yourself so that you are feeling success.
Yes. So if you don't have any credit, if you've never borrowed before, go look up. And another word might be a prepaid card. Is that right? No. So
no, you
secured credit card.
Credit card.
But it's basically like you put money into the account, maybe $500, and you have $500 credit to go to the store. So maybe you use it to buy gas, and that's all you do. You buy gas with it every month, and at the end of the month, you pay that gas bill every month. And that's how you're building credit from zero without having to worry about going into debt, which is what we're trying to avoid.
Correct.
Any kind of negative debt. Okay, so we're working on that for those of you that don't have any credit. Now we have some folks that have credit with lots of negative items on there that's bringing their score down. So when we look at scores, what is considered a good score, fair score, etc.? What are those ranges?
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go through what a mortgage lender
Okay.
Which-
In the perspective of a mortgage lender.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's mostly, who I deal with.
Mm-hmm.
So anything above a 620 is considered fair.
Okay.
Up to a 680.
So 680 and above is good.
680 and above is good.
Okay.
Yes.
620 to 680 is fair.
Fair.
And anything under 620, we really need to look at.
Yes. Because
Okay.
the interest that you will get will be higher with a lower credit score.
Yes.
So you want to, get it up a little bit, above 700, and you're going to be a lot better off with the interest.
But 620, you're not going to not get your house at 620.
You're not
You
going to
just might
get
not
it.
have the most preferable terms.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, so now that we know those ranges, so say we have somebody that's 620 or lower. I know that I had identity theft back in 2013, and it shot my credit from 700 to 400 within 2 weeks.
Yep.
It was awful. It was the worst feeling in the world. But that 400, wasn't able to get a credit, like a checking account. I couldn't hardly do anything.
Yeah.
So we want to build that credit. And I went to somebody to help me. Somebody like yourself. I didn't know you back then. Didn't know you back then. But they really helped me out. So Gina, tell us how you can help those of our listeners that have a lot of negative items on their credit score or credit report that's causing that score to be down.
Okay, well, it all depends. It all depends. It's very important to not go over your credit limit on your credit cards. Once you go over your credit limit, then you become a high risk. And it shows the banks that you don't know how to maintain a positive credit score. So you'll get funny looks.
Okay, so that's one thing that can negatively affect your credit score.
Very much
is going
so.
over. And now, is that like a temporary going over your limit? Like, oh shoot, I'm over, and now you pay it back right away, or is it keeping it over your limit?
Once you go over, it stays that way.
Okay.
So realistically, to not go over that credit limit, it's very important to pay more than what the minimum payment is, because you're not even covering the interest. You can still pay the minimum amount and be consistent with it as long as you don't go over the credit score.
Okay.
I mean, the credit
limit. Okay. All right. So that's one thing that can negatively affect your score. What are some other things that can negatively affect your score?
Late payments.
Late payments. How long does that stay with you?
A year.
Late? 1 whole year.
1 whole year.
If you're how many days late?
30.
Doesn't matter. So one missed payment, they can report it and it could stay with you for a whole year.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Once it gets reported, it stays with you for an entire year. You won't be able to get a car loan. You won't be able to buy a house, because that's going to affect you that much for a year.
Yeah.
If you go over 180, then it becomes charged off.
Yeah, it becomes a much bigger issue because they see it. Sometimes people, when they're, I know lots of mortgage officers, they'll see, okay, 30 days, one time, whatever, like that was, they might be able to count that as a mistake, but it's still on your report. However, for example, I'm just being honest with you guys. I have a 90-day late on my student loan from 7 years ago that I still get asked about.
Yeah.
Because it was 90 days, even though it was 7 years ago. And I have an explanation for it, but.
And the explanation is that they sell it and it gets transferred.
It's on there and it's a big red mark, and I get asked about it anytime I apply for a credit, especially when I was buying this house. They wanted to know why it was that late and if it was going to happen to them. So
in that instance, when it's happening and you know that you're going to be negatively affected, it's very important to start sending off a letter certified, making sure that they receive it, so that you have it documented. Due to the transfer, there was a misunderstanding, a mix-up, just a simple explanation.
Yeah, to the company that you're late to.
Yes.
Okay.
That way you have it on record, because like you said, if they ask you, you can say, yes, I wrote them a letter, here it is.
Mm-hmm. That's good. I didn't know you could do that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, we should have known
Why
that.
am I here?
We should have known that 7 years
That's
ago. Okay, so what are some other things that will negatively affect your credit? We've got over your credit limit. We've got late payments. What else?
Okay, I'm going to go back to the charge-offs. Now, a charge-off means that the company received the loss for the amount of the credit card, repo, whatever it might be.
If you owe them $500, the company is claiming that as a loss.
Right.
They're assuming they're not going to get it
Because
from you
they
anymore.
do their reports either quarterly, yearly, some do it every month.
Mm-hmm.
They turn in all their negatives. The IRS gives them credit for that. But then they sell your account to a collection agency or a debt collection attorney.
Okay.
If a debt collection attorney picks up your account, then you're going to get stuck possibly with a judgment.
Okay.
So a judgment will drop your credit score anywhere from 35 to 40 points.
Wow, that's a lot. But a judgment can also be a lien on your house sometimes. Depends on what it is.
Depends. It depends. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Yes, it can.
So be careful with that one. Those of you that already own your house, you don't want that to be on your
However,
title.
they can only put it on there if it's a secured account.
Mm-hmm.
So if they try to place a property lien on your home and you live there, you can talk to them and have it removed.
Okay, but that's why you have Gina.
You can dispute.
you have the pro that knows what you can dispute and what you can't dispute.
Now,
Okay.
once you get a judgment, they're going to send you a letter or a court documents, and you need to go to court and make a settlement offer.
Okay.
Do everything possible to not allow, don't ignore it, because then they add their interest that occurs daily.
Whoa, okay. Daily interest. Okay.
And it just depends on how long you ignore it, because the interest will just skyrocket.
Now, do you need a lawyer to go to those things, or can you?
But no, you go, you represent yourself, and you offer to make a reasonable settlement amount.
Okay, so that's either settling for pennies on the dollar or a payment plan or something along those lines. Just saying, hey, I'm sorry, this is happening. Let me do my best to make it right is basically what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But if you end up having a judgment and you don't know about it because you didn't live at that address,
Or it was stolen.
when you live in apartments, by law, if they evict you, by law they send it to your last known address, which is where you got evicted from. You no longer live there, so you never see it.
Right.
So then it could turn into a garnishment.
Okay. Which means garnish your wages.
Correct.
Okay. So they take money out automatically from your paycheck.
Yep, up to 25%.
Okay.
So it's best to know that once you break a lease, they're going to come after you, and you need to work on it.
Okay.
And
Okay.
Yeah.
So those are just a few things, guys. And those are very scary things. And it's okay because there is no education in credit. And that's why I wanted to have this episode.
Right.
So I don't want to scare you, but we also want to educate you so that you know that how these things are affecting your potential to buy a house in the next year, 2 years, whatnot. However, if you do have some of those things on your credit score from your past, you were a teenager and you messed up, that happens. We're going to call Gina and she's going to become Sherlock Holmes or Nancy Drew on your account, and she's going to help get some things taken off. So,
well, hold on a second.
Yeah,
taken off is kind of tricky. Medical. Okay, so you're allowed up to $2,000 in medical.
Okay.
There's some talk about some changes where they're not going to look at it as much, but if at all possible, you don't want to have $100 medical sitting on your account forever, on your credit report forever.
Okay.
Just pay it. You know what I mean? Make payment arrangements, whatever. Which other one?
Things that we can take off.
I lost my train of thought. Okay, so they will take it off. Now, you could, like when I first started in 2016, you could pay to delete.
Okay.
But now they've gotten trickier and they don't want to pay to delete, but they'll update the status. So you'll go from having a charged off account to a paid in full for a lesser amount.
Okay. Which is better.
So it's satisfied.
Okay.
It's satisfied. And then that way it isn't going to, it'll take some time before it's not looked down upon, but a bank will always look at the fact that you attempted to settle instead of just letting it sit there.
Right.
Because even though things reported on your credit report stay there for 7 years, if anybody makes an inquiry on your credit report, then the 7-year clock starts all over again.
Wait, what?
Oh yeah, it's ugly.
Ugh. Is that why my 90 days won't go off and it was even 7 years ago? Or will that eventually fall off?
Not on student loans.
That was a student loan, yeah.
Yeah, no, not on student loans, because student loans are government funded.
Okay.
So unfortunately, there's nothing you can do about that.
No, that's what my credit repair person said. He's like,
There's
we're just gonna have to wait it out.
Stay there.
Yeah, which it's almost done, but
even though once it's settled, then you can close that part of your life. But until you're done making those payments,
yeah, it's just coming. It just goes down. We'll show you what it looks like on your credit report in just a minute. Okay, so you mentioned in your bio dispute letters. What do those do then? If they don't take them off, what does it do?
Okay, so a dispute letter, just because somebody calls you and says, "Hey, you owe this money," doesn't mean you owe the money. You want to find out why. So you have the right to ask to have an account validated. And by validated, you can ask for detailed items with your signature that you opened the account. They have to prove that you owe the money. That's just your right. You have and by writing a dispute letter, you can ask the credit bureaus to do an investigation for you.
Okay. So do you, Gina, or somebody like yourself have to do those dispute letters, or could I do one by myself?
You know what? You can do that by yourself, and I'm glad you asked me. Or I can do it for you.
Right.
And all you do is give me the whatever receipts, any information on it, and I take it all away from you.
Take it upon yourself.
Well, because I feel that when people look at their credit report and some of the items on there, you get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And it becomes personal, and you're like, how am I going to do this? But I take that away from you. And so I help you through the process. We work on it together the entire time. And then we sit together and we set up a plan.
Yeah. That's when we were having my person that took over helping me with my credit. I had one thing led to another with my credit fraud or identity theft. So there was a lot that needed to be cleaned up. I, however, was trying to get my life back, get a job, the job, or figure out how to pay my bills and all that kind of stuff after having all that happen. And so having somebody that knew what they were doing, they knew the laws inside and out.
Correct.
They could take over for me and work on it without me having to physically or mentally be there every day doing it, was a lifesaver. So depending on what's going on in your life, yes, you can write those letters yourself, but at the same time, like, I don't want to say it's worth your time, but
no, you have to stay consistent.
Yeah.
And you have to make sure, sometimes when I make phone calls to several accounts, I may be on the phone for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Being switched from one place to another because
having to explain yourself every time you're transferred to a new person.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it just depends on how time consuming and how much time you have.
Right.
It's a teeter-totter.
Right. And all of our lives are different. So like, I don't want to say you're required to hire somebody like Gina to do that stuff, because you can do it on your own. It's just going to be time consuming, and it might be stressful and overwhelming. Whereas the hiring of somebody like Gina might be worth the dollars down to save yourself from having to do all of that. And you can focus on your family. You can focus on getting that better job or the job that you have or whatever was suffering to put you in the situation to begin with. You have that opportunity to fix that while she's fixing your credit. So it's highly recommended that you talk to a professional, in my opinion, when it comes to your credit, because it's so important.
It really is,
It's so
because
important.
everybody judges you on your credit report.
Mm-hmm.
You are nobody if you have no credit.
And it's not just buying a house that your credit affects. Like I said, I couldn't get a checking account. I could not get a checking account because my credit was so low.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, how am I supposed to cash, my checks? So then I had to go to the check cashing place, and those fees are really high.
Yeah. You're
And
giving
then,
your hard-earned money away.
so using money becomes more expensive when your credit is bad. I had to buy a car because I was in a big accident and I could not get a loan for a car. So I had to pay cash for a car or go to one of those places where the interest rate's like 20% on a car loan. 20% is a lot of money, guys.
Yes.
So it's not just buying a house, as though that's what we're focusing on in the show, but credit is so important. It just looks over your entire life, and it affects the way that you're able to use, save, and spend your money.
Yes.
So are we ready to break down a credit report?
Sure.
Yeah. Is there anything else we wanted to address before we do that?
No, I think we covered it all.
Yeah,
we
I
got
think
the
so.
apartments. That was a big.
All right, so we're going to look at a credit report, and it might be a little difficult because I don't have the technology yet in this first season to show you like a split screen, or those of you that are listening, obviously you're not going to be able to see anyway if you're driving, but let's just kind of break it down to what like the sections are and what different things mean. So let's just start from the top. What's the very first thing that you see when you get your credit report?
Well, you're gonna want to do a few things. You're gonna look at your name. You're gonna look at the Social Security, the number, and then you're also gonna want to look at the names that the names that they have you listed by.
Like your other names that you're known as. Okay.
Correct.
So I have multiple, and again, I'm just using myself as an example so that maybe you can follow along. So I was born with one name, and I've been married before, and now I'm married again. So I have 3 different names that are going to be listed on my report. So make sure that those are right.
Okay. So you've also got to look at the addresses. Have you lived in all of these?
So the next section down is going to be like a long list of the different places that you might have lived. Hopefully they're all places that you actually lived before.
Correct.
Right.
Because like we discussed, that just because they say you owe the money doesn't mean, what if somebody has the same name as you and it got placed on your credit?
Okay.
Okay. I mean, because we all make mistakes. It's not really clear. So we like to look at those things, especially if you have identity theft.
Okay.
Because sometimes they put their addresses in.
Okay, so we're checking, make sure any addresses listed is a place that you've actually lived before, and like take a marker to it and mark it if you see something that's not right. Okay, and then the next, we've done the names, now we've done the addresses, now what's next?
And also look at the employment, because through identity theft, that would be another thing you might be.
Okay, so check and make sure that they don't necessarily list every place you've ever worked.
No.
If you're like myself who had like a gajillion different jobs, but you want to make sure if it is listed there that you worked there.
You worked there.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so then we're going to start off, you're going to look, and there's going to be the creditor's name.
Okay, so this next section, and it has lots of little like boxes.
It's divided, yes.
Yeah, so
into sections.
It looks like a chart almost, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like creditors, and then it's going to list everybody that you've ever owed money to in the past.
But just for one column, you're going to have the name of the company, the account number.
Okay.
the date reported, and the date opened.
Okay.
Okay. Then you're going to have, this is going to tell you, this one's a car loan, so it's going to give you the high credit or limit. So, but that would be the balance of what the beginning balance was.
So if it's an unsecured credit card, it's going to give you your highest.
It's going to give you a limit.
Yeah, how
credit
much you're
limit.
allowed to spend. It's be $15,000 on a credit card, or maybe it's $500
Yes.
depending on who
See, it'll give
you
you,
are.
it'll give you your credit limit.
The high credit or limit. So that's the max that you're allowed to spend for that creditor. That's what that number means. Okay.
Underneath the beginning balance, it's going to tell you if it's, this is auto, if it's a credit card, it's going to tell you that it's a revolving.
Okay, so it says auto underneath, which is a car. Revolving means it's an unsecured credit card, right? What does that mean? What does INST mean?
Installments.
Installments. What kind of loans are installments?
It's the payment.
Like
It's the payment, but this is a personal loan.
Okay, so it's like a personal loan. Is a student loan an installment loan?
Only if it's a private loan.
Okay, so like not a credit card. It's more like a personal loan. It's an installment. Okay.
Education.
There's education. So EDU is education. That's a student loan.
That's how much the payment is a month. So
Okay,
it
so
tells
that's the
you.
next column over though. So
Yes,
so we're
sorry.
defining all of those abbreviations. Are there any other abbreviations we should look for that we don't see on this particular example?
Not at this time.
Okay. So those are just to give you an idea of what kind of credit you are holding. So that's the max limit and the type of loan it is, and then we're going to move to the next column. And what is that next column?
It's going to give you the balance. Where we talked about the balance?
Not yet. Your current balance is next. So you have your high balance, like your max limit that you're allowed to spend, and then your current balance. So that's where you know if you're going over limit.
Well, yes.
Or close to over limit, all of that kind of stuff.
Yes. The over limit, not good. Okay, and then for this one, because it's a charge off, we have a past due amount.
Okay, how do we know it's a charge off? So say, okay, that's at the very end. Okay, so then the next column over is past due, and you want all of that to be zero. That's what you want. The next column, all of it to be zero, but this particular example that we're looking at that you guys can't see has a balance on there. So you're like, uh-oh, that's a red flag. Let's look at that.
Okay, so this here is how many months it's been past due.
Okay, so does it always say MOREV on it? Is that
Not always. Oh, good. Maybe so.
So
two different kinds here.
The next column over, the title column says MO, and then the next, it says REV. So it looks like months revolving. And the days underneath it is how many days it's past due. So if you have all zeros, then you should have zeros under that as well. Okay, so if you have a balance due, then we wanted to look at that, how many days past due, because that's when it's going to start getting worse and worse and worse and worse for you.
Okay, and then all credit bureaus do not report the same thing. Okay. So this one, it gives you the status, which is paid as agreed, and then the source is all three credit bureaus.
Okay. Okay, so there's your status. So it'll say paid in full. It says charge off. It says as agreed.
And when you settle a charge off or a collection, it will say paid in full for a lesser amount.
Okay, that's the new one you were talking about.
It gets updated. It does not go away, but it gets updated to a satisfied status.
So that's how you're kind of looking at it. You have your on the far left, you've got the name of the creditor, then the dates. You want to make sure that you know those dates that you open those cards or loans or whatever. You have your max amount you can spend, your current balance, past due, days late, if any, and the status of that loan or card. And you want those all to be positive. And if there's something that's not, especially if you have late payments and stuff, then you really want to make sure that you're getting either those paid off if they're yours. But if you didn't open that credit card,
Right.
then we've got a different problem that we
Then
have to look at.
ask for an investigation through
Right.
the credit bureaus.
Right.
Mhm.
So that's how you're reading that each line in their columns to make sure that those are things that you know that either you're responsible for or needs to be corrected. Okay?
All right. Now that's just one way. That's the most, I mean, that's where you're going to get all the information. It's very important to know, like let's say you have a charge off and it's been on there 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Remember, if you make an inquiry on it, if you call to find anything out, it starts the clock all over again. So you have to be very, very careful to not wake wake a sleeping giant if you don't have to.
Okay.
So
So if you see that on there, call Gina and say, hey,
right
what
before
is this?
you make any attempts.
Yeah, because you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot. Okay.
Yes.
So what's next on your credit report that we could look at?
Let me see. Oh, school loans. I do want to talk about school loans for a minute. I know that everybody's been deferred and everybody's waiting to see if the government will help
Pay those
delete
off.
some of the debt. Yes.
Mhm.
However, don't count on it.
I wouldn't.
Don't count on it. Like I told my son, all this time that it's been deferred the last 3 years, make the payment. Make the same payment if he works, so he can make that payment, any payment, because
Mhm.
it'll go straight to the interest.
Mhm. No,
I mean, the
just
principal,
yeah.
because you're not getting charged interest.
Mhm.
So that's the fastest way to pay the loan down. Now, when you have the lowest payment that you can possibly have to make to the school loan, don't count on that either. Pay more.
Okay.
At least pay $50 to $100 more. And the reason is if you pay the small amount, if you pay your $25, you're not paying the 4.3 that they charge, or 4.7 that they charge you interest. So the loan only goes up, it does not go down.
Yeah, that's a problem. I've been doing the same thing with my student loan because it's deferred, so I don't have to pay a certain amount. But
you're paying. You're
but
still
I'm
paying.
making some payments, and it's like the most I've seen it go down since
Yes.
I graduated because
Yes.
there's no interest right now. I don't know when they're reinstating the
They're
interest.
talking about the end of the month. They have to start picking up the payments again
End of what month?
of August.
End of August, because they may not be watching that. So end of August, which is when we're shooting right now. So in a few days.
You're right. Okay.
So once you're listening to this, it'll probably be reinstated. But look at your interest rate. Look at your student loan bill says what your interest payments are every month. Make sure you're paying more than that, plus whatever you can, so that you're paying down your principal balance as well.
Yes.
Because those don't go away. They're federal government loans, even though they say they're going to pay them, but there's too many objections for that to go smoothly. So just keep paying them because they will not go away.
So if you run your credit
Mm-hmm.
by yourself, Privacy Guard is the best one, I think, because everything's very detailed. If you run your own credit, it does not ding your credit score. It does not drop it.
All right. I know you used to only be allowed to get one report a year. Is that still the case, or?
Right now, I believe that the different credit bureaus are running different programs. I know that Experian. No,
Mhm.
is it Experian?
I have Experian and ID Seal. I have two different ones.
Okay, Experian, you can do a free.
Mm-hmm.
They won't give you a credit score, but they'll give you the names of the accounts. If you do, it'll give you a general idea.
Mm-hmm.
If you have Credit Karma is not accurate, but it helps you a little bit as far as letting you know if something new comes on.
Mm-hmm.
It can help keep you alert, but it's just don't expect it to. If it says that your credit score is 781, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is. It could be a few numbers off. both
Okay.
ways. It's
Mhm.
just not a for sure thing. So with that said, run your credit and check to see what do you have on there.
Yeah, I highly recommend. I'll have people call me to get into a rental or something, even just a rental, and they have no idea what their credit score is. And I highly recommend that once you're going to start looking for a house, whether it be a rental or buying, you need to know where you are exactly, because that's the first question that everybody's going to ask you. So go online, pull a credit report, print it off, read it, make sure everything is accurate, and have an idea of where you stand so that you know when you're applying, or you know that you need to clean some things up.
Yes.
I always, again, I pray that none of you ever have to experience identity fraud, but keeping an eye on it to
Yes.
make sure that nothing has gotten out of hand is so important. And once you get through understanding how to read the first one, the next ones are so easy.
Yes.
Even if it's several pages, you're like, okay, you kind of just skim through and you understand what it all means.
Mhm.
And it doesn't take you near as long, but your knowledge of where you are financially is so much more strong, and it makes you a better Lindy. Is that
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
Makes you a better
Candidate
lendee,
for a loan.
right? Because you have an understanding of your financial health. For lenders, is like hallelujah.
This is power right here.
Yes.
This credit report is power.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Is there anything else we want to discuss before we take our final break and then come back to wrap up the show?
Just one thing.
Sure.
Judgments do not appear on your credit report.
How do we find out if we have a judgment against us if we
You
don't
would
know?
need to have a lender do a risk view where they dig a little bit deeper.
Okay, so only a lender is going to be able to find that?
You can go to LexisNexis and ask for a report.
Say that one more time.
LexisNexis.
Okay, and they'll pull.
You can
judgments.
request to have them pull a credit report and send it to you, because they will dig a lot deeper than
Okay. LexisNexis, guys.
Yep.
LEXUS.
LexisNexis, yeah.
NEXUS. Okay, for those of you that are just listening.
.com.
If you want me to repeat that, just type it in the comments or email me or something, and I'll get you that information. Just a few more questions for you, Gina. What would be your number one most frequently asked question?
How long does this take?
I can imagine that being very different for every person that you talk to.
For every person, depending. Sometimes you can write a dispute to the credit bureaus, and you might need to do multiple requests.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes anywhere from 30 days. If you pay to get your credit report, it'll take 30 days. If you get a free one, it can take up to 60 days.
Okay, so it's not overnight.
It's not overnight,
Mhm.
no. And sometimes they might ask for more detailed information.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't ever go to the credit bureaus and say, oh, I paid that.
I mean, you can, but it's not
great.
necessarily gonna.
Okay, great. You paid it. I need a copy of a receipt.
Mm-hmm.
Your bank statements go back up to 5 years. I keep all my documentation, so I know it's someplace in my house. It's just that's going to also depend on how long it's going to take.
Right. And that's another reason why we suggest you pulling your credit before you start this whole process, so that we can make sure you're in the right financial place for us to get you a loan. So if we need 6 months to get some things cleaned up, you're not stressed out because you need to move in 2 months.
Right.
Let's think ahead on this one. So let's tell everybody, Gina, how to get a hold of you.
You can reach me at 602-471-6141.
Okay.
And you can also email me at bettercreditforyou@hotmail.com.
Okay. And be sure that you tell her that you heard her on how to be a homeowner. We all like to know where our phone calls are coming from, but I also like to think that they're extra VIP. when they're
Going
how to
on.
be a homeowner guests. So,
Yes. And I
Excellent.
work when the clients need me, not when I choose to go to
Yeah.
work.
Okay.
I'm
Well,
available to you all the time.
anytime. All right, guys, if you have any questions, write them down. I will get them to Gina and we'll get them answered for you. Until then, Gina, thank you for being on the show.
Oh, Ashley, thank you for having me.
And thank you
Thank
all
you.
for listening. And I hope you have a great week. See you next time. Bye.
Sunshine Hill Properties is proud to bring you the How to Be a Homeowner podcast. If you have more questions, ask them in the comment section. I will be featuring and answering them in upcoming episodes. If you like the show, leave a review and share it with a friend. Our goal is to help as many people as possible achieve their dreams, and your reviews help reach those people. If you are ready to build your bridge to homeownership, reach out to me at sunshinehillproperties.com to make an appointment for a call. No matter where you are in the country or on your journey, I'm ready to get you headed in the right direction with a free consultation. Interested in finding a trusted service provider in your area or partnering with HOA.com as a service professional? Go to HOA.com/Ashley. Are you an agent? Great! I am growing my team in states across the country. Let's schedule a call to see if we need an agent to cover your area. Visit sunshinehillproperties.com. Want a career in real estate? You're not an agent yet, but you still want a career? That's still wonderful. I'd love to talk to you about training with me or one of my team members. Contact us at, you guessed it, sunshinehillproperties.com. I have to shout out our amazing post-production team. Thank you, Space Dream Productions, for doing every bit of post-production. I truly could not have made this show happen without you. And last but not least, if you don't want to miss a thing, be sure to subscribe to us now on the How to Be a Homeowner podcast.